I want to welcome you all. This is J.D. Seal, Vice President of Skyview Partners, and we are here for our session this morning on automating your manual security compliance tasks. Today's host is Carol Woodbury, President of Skyview Partners. Carol?
Thanks, JD. Today I'd like to talk to you just about some compliance issues and how PolicyMinder can help with those. When we talk to our clients, and I talk to folks at conferences and through email, I've often found that those compliance tasks that you're faced with are very manual in nature, and they tend to be very time-consuming. The other thing that I've found about the compliance tests that you're usually required to perform is that they often depend on visual comparisons. Things like comparing one column in a spreadsheet to another. Because of this manual nature and because they are so onerous, a lot of times administrators just don't even have the time or don't want to have the time to actually run these tasks because administrators' jobs are very busy, and the thought of doing these manual processes just allow them to put other things ahead of this. So they're often not run because the administrators just lack sufficient time. Then if you look again at the manual nature, they're often error prone because as humans we often make mistakes just because we miss something, but as we run things constantly over and over again, we tend to be complacent and maybe not as careful and have attention to detail. And finally, a lot of these tasks are just simply rather boring, and they're especially boring for your very talented administrators. And if you think about it, is this really the type of thing that you want your administrators to be doing on a regular basis? Things like comparing items in two columns tends to be not the best use of your administrator's very valuable time. So as a result of seeing these types of issues come up with compliance, but yet realize that compliance is a part of all of our lives these days, we've come up with a list of compliance tasks that we've seen most shops run. Now, you may have some other tasks to run, and you may not run all of these, but this is a list that we compiled from talking to a number of different people. So what I'd like to do is just walk through some of these and tell you how some of our clients are using PolicyMinder to automate these tasks. We have one who is a very large retailer that uses PolicyMinder to discover their inactive profiles. And then they use the fix-it function to disable those profiles after they've been inactive a certain amount of time. And finally, they use the fix-it function again to actually remove or delete those profiles on the system. And the reason they're doing all of that through PolicyMinder is because their auditor had a requirement to have proof that those tasks were actually being performed. So not only does it just automate and save them time, but it also provides that audit requirement that the auditor needed for the documentation or proof that these tasks were being performed. Now, we also have some people in the healthcare industry that absolutely love PolicyMinder because it allows them to make sure that their user profiles are configured correctly, meaning that they are running some of the tasks to look at the members of a particular group profile to make sure that they have the right special authorities, that they are set to a limited capability user, that they have the right sign-on information, and so forth. So that has saved them significant time. Now, PolicyMinder doesn't just address user profiles, but you can look at libraries, directories, and the objects in those libraries and directories as well. We have a very large luxury retailer that needs to be PCI compliant, and as part of that compliance requirement, the files containing cardholder data need to be set at a specific authority. So they run a PolicyMinder check on a daily basis to make sure that those files stay secured appropriately. They also run it on their programs that decrypt their cardholder data to make sure that those are secured appropriately. They actually run that on a twice-a-day routine, so they are using it quite frequently. We have another customer who is using the ability to find new libraries, and that feeds information then into their replication process so that when they discover a new library, they can make sure that it is working within their HA software, as well as to be able to clean up libraries that really shouldn't have been created in the first place. Now, in addition to the libraries and the directories and the objects in those, PolicyMinder can look at changes to system values, new additions to authorization lists, file shares, and actually quite a bit more. Now, we have somebody in the insurance industry that is using the ability to document the system values, and they go one step further. They're actually using the additional documentation that you can put into the system value and other categories to document their risk acceptance statements. So those system values that the auditor wants to be set to one value, but the business has decided to set to a different value, those acceptances from the deviance of the auditor's request has been put into the software, and when they print the policy and print the values, the risk acceptance statements come right out. So they don't have to have multiple sources of that documentation. We also have another person in the retail organization that looks for programs that adopt, and they do that on a regular basis because they have a specific process for allowing their programmers to get a program to adopt. If a new program shows up and it isn't part of the approval process, they know that a programmer has bypassed their process. And yet again, we have one other organization that is using the ability to look at specific commands. Their auditor had demanded that certain commands be restricted from use by their programming staff, and so they've added those into PolicyMinder and they check those on a weekly basis. So you can see that Skyview PolicyMinder has the ability to provide a lot of automation. It is a security compliance management tool, and it also provides a lot of security administration abilities as well. But PolicyMinder allows you to automate your security policy compliance monitoring. It allows you to document your policy. It allows you to check for variances or deviations from that policy. And finally, it allows you to automatically fix those issues so that you can come back into compliance. So if you have those automated tasks that you want to get automated, I'd encourage you to talk to Skyview or one of your authorized Skyview resellers, and we can provide you with a customized return on investment analysis so that you can take those manual processes and see how much time you can save with PolicyMinder. Thanks so much for your time today.